Hello everyone, welcome you all in another video lecture. So in this video tutorial, we will discuss about what is the virus, about the virus, structure of virus and classification of virus. So let's start with the introductive part. So basically the viruses are defined as microscopic infectious agents. They are very small in size as they cannot be seen by naked eyes, and they are defined as infectious agents, not as any cellular organisms, because they are non-cellular organisms. They do not have any cellular structure. So that's why they are considered as only infectious agents, not as a cellular organisms. They are considered as non-cellular organisms, and they can be defined as a chain of nucleic acids which can be either DNA or RNA and which resides in the host cell, causing various infections in the host cell. So they are normally parasitic in nature. They are parasites which resides in the host cell, and they use the machinery of the host cell to reproduction and to produce multiple copies of the viruses with the help of the machinery of host cell. And with this, they also call different types of infections in the host cell, which call several viral diseases in humans as well as in plants and another higher animals. So that's why they are considered as infectious agents, because they infect and they cause different types of viral infections. So now let's understand and discuss about the structure of virus. So as we have discussed that they are very small in size, as they cannot be seen by naked eyes. So the common structure or the normal structure of the virus ranging from 30 to 50 nanometer, which is very smaller size, and they usually lack a cell wall but are surrounded by a protective protein coating, and this coating is called as capsid. So basically the virus do not have any particular structure, or they do not have any type of cellular organelles. They only consist of genetic material which can be either of DNA or RNA, named as deoxyribonucleic acid and ribonucleic acid. And this genetic material is coated by a protective coating or covering, and this covering is called as capsid and also sometimes as capsule. Now the shape, size and the structure of these proteins depend upon the different species of virus. So this protein covering is different, or it can be vary in different species of virus. And the protein associated with nucleic acid produces a nucleoplasmid with the genome. So let's understand about the structure of virus with this diagram. So here in this diagrammatic presentation, we can see the structure of virus and the components of the viral genome. It is not considered as a cell because here we can see it did not have any cellular organelle, or it did not have any structure like a prokaryotic or eukaryotic cell. So that's why they are considered as non-cellular organisms. So in the core of this structure, here we can see the viral genome, and this genome can vary. It can be DNA or RNA, and according to the genetic material of the virus, it can be categorized into different classes. So this viral genome is surrounded by a nucleocapsid, which is a proteinous layer or a proteinous covering called as capsid. There are some viral teguments and an envelope, which is a protective layer which is also made up of several proteins, and these proteins have the information to cause infections in the host cells and also some important informations about the replications of this genetic material. So basically this is the common structure of virus, and here we can see there is not any cytoplasmic organelle. They do not have ribosomes to produce several proteins, or they do not have any other organelle, so that's why they cannot replicate by itself. So that's why they need a host cell to replicate and to make multiple copies of these viral genome. Now the structure of virus sometimes also can be complicated also. So this is the structure of bacteriophage, and bacteriophage is also a type of virus, and these viruses are specific for the engulfment of bacteria. So they are specific because they engulf the bacteria or they infect the bacterial cell. So here we can see it has a little complicated structure as compared to other viral structures. So here we can see the structure of bacteriophage has three components. The top one, which is called as head, and here it is called as collar or neck, and they are called as base. So the head region it consists nucleic acid in its structure, which can be DNA or RNA. Basically, bacteriophage has the genetic material as DNA, which is surrounded by protein layer known as capsid, and there are whiskers or domain present in the neck, and it is the proteinous sheath. And there are long tail fibers which require to the movement, and there are some iron ions attached in the tails of this bacteriophage. So this is the common structure of bacteriophage, which is also a type of virus. So now let's understand about a specific and very interesting fact about the viruses. So the viruses are considered as a connecting link between living and non-living organisms. And why they are known as these connecting links, let's understand. So the virus need a host cell to replicate because they lack a cellular machinery. They do not have ribosomes to synthesize essential proteins for replication of DNA or RNA, and they do not have any cytoplasmic organelles or also any cellular machinery. So that's why they do not replicate by its own. That's why they need a host cell, and they require a host dependent mechanism to replicate its genetic material and to make multiple copies of its genetic material so that they can infect various organisms. So we know that only living organisms have the tendency for reproduction. So in that condition, they have some features of living organisms because they have the methods to replicate, and they reproduce by the methods of host cells. Now there are some features also which matches with the non-living organisms, which include that viruses can also be crystallized, and there are not any living organisms which can be crystallized. So that's why they are also have some features as non-living organisms. So as we have discussed that the viruses have both the features of non-living as well as of living organisms. So in the environment they act like non-living organisms, but if when they attach with any host cell and when they enter into the host cell, they act like a living organism and they start producing proteins and also start replicating using the cell's machinery. So that's why they are considered as a connecting link between living and non-living organisms. Now the viruses are classified into different categories according to different bases of criteria. So according to the genetic material present in the virus, they are categorized into two types, which are named as DNA virus and RNA virus. So basically the virus have a genetic material as DNA are considered as DNA virus, and if the virus have RNA as a genetic material, they are considered as RNA virus. Now we know that DNA is a double-stranded molecule, so it can be found as a double-stranded as well as also single-stranded. So they are further classified to double-stranded viruses and single-stranded DNA viruses, similarly as double-stranded RNA viruses and single-stranded RNA viruses. Now the another method for the classification or categorization of viruses is the shape and structure of the virus. So on the basis of shape and structure, these viruses can be categorized into cubical, spherical, radial symmetry and complex viruses. So the cubical viruses are also known as isohedral symmetry viruses, which include reovirus, picornavirus and many more. The spiral viruses are also known as helical symmetry viruses, and they include paramyxovirus and orthomyxovirus. The radial symmetry viruses are bacteriophages, which have the radial symmetry, and the complex viruses include pox virus, which have very complex structure and they have not any symmetry in its structure. Now, the third basis or the criteria for classifying the viruses are on the basis of the host cell. So, on the basis of the host cells which are infected by these viruses, the virus can be classified into plant virus, animal virus, and bacteriophage. So, the plant virus are those viruses which infect the plants, and their genetic material is mostly RNA, which remains enclosed in the protein coat. So they cause different diseases in plants like tobacco mosaic virus, potato virus, and many other viruses. The another type is animal virus, which causes different types of infections and viral diseases in humans as well as in another higher animals. And they have the genetic material of either DNA and RNA, like influenza, coronavirus, rabies virus, poliovirus, and many others. The third type include bacteriophage. So as we have discussed that it is a specific type of virus which engulf or which infect the bacterial cells, and that's why they are called as bacteriophage, because they have the ability to infect or to engulf the bacteria, and they are also considered as bacteriophages and bacteria eaters, and they contain DNA as their genetic material. So now there are some very common diseases or viral infections caused by different species of viruses. The examples include AIDS, which is named as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is a disease or a viral infection caused by a virus named as human immunodeficiency virus. And the another diseases caused by viruses include Ebola, coronavirus, COVID, influenza, common flu, herpes, viral pneumonia, meningitis, rabies, and different other diseases which are caused by viruses. So in this video we have discussed about what is the virus, structure and classification of virus, and why they are considered as connecting link between living and non-living organisms. Thank you.